Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Happy Saturday to you all. Today, we are going to be delivering a video that we have promised for the past couple of days, and that is we are going to be identifying 5 altcoins that have broken out and that are going to start a major uptrend. So what we're essentially saying here is these 5 altcoins that we are going to mention, we think technically look to have started a what we would call a stage 2, which is really a breakout phase and an uptrend. And what I'm going to do to set the stage here is I'm going to look at previous altcoins and stocks that we've called in regards to breaking out. So we'll explain what we mean by breaking out. You know, when people talk about something breaking out when it comes to technical analysis, you know, there's often a lot of different meanings, but they're all under the same umbrella of breaking out of something, essentially. So in this example that we're going to be showing you, what we're assessing when we're talking about a breakout is a breakout of a range, a bottoming range, which we'd identify as a stage 1 for a market. So the market is in stage 1 when it's bottoming, it's in stage 2 when it's advancing, which is what we think most of these or all of these cryptos are now in. It's at stage 3 when it's topping and stage 4 when it's declining. If you want to learn stage analysis, do consider becoming a Patreon. It's really helped us out in regards to consistently calling the markets right based on breaking the markets down into stages and looking at, you know, where we are and where we're heading. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be looking at 5 altcoins. We're going to be setting the stage with a number of altcoins that we called this year, also stocks, and we're going to be giving kind of a blueprint of what we're looking at here and what we're expecting to come, and then we'll dive into the altcoins. So when we are talking about a breakout, specifically in our case, what we're talking about is a breakout of a range. So I'm going to use another Solana chart here. Solana was one of our calls from earlier this year. It was actually something that we were looking to long. And, you know, not to go too much into detail, but we like to break markets into stages when we look at them from a kind of macro viewpoint. Macro just meaning higher time frame. I do think, and it always makes me laugh when I see investors on very small time frames, like sub the daily time frame. I can understand it if you're looking to position and you're looking for trend continuations or specific patterns. But when it comes to investing, the technical analysis that you are going to do, in my opinion, the vast majority of it is going to take place on the weekly time frame. And we have things to help us sort of identify trends like 30 weekly moving averages and other things. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to be identifying bottoming ranges that all 5 of these altcoins have, and the fact that they've broken out. And we're using Solana as a blueprint of what we expect to come for these altcoins. And we'll also show you that on a number of stocks. So this here is what we would have identified as a stage 1 bottoming range. So a basing, Dow theory would call it accumulation, and the adverse of that is distribution at the top, and then you have your uptrends and downtrends. Remember, the trend is your friend. And what we're assessing is that this breakout here that was on volume, which is a key sign that there's going to be continuation in a trend, this area here is where these altcoins are at, and you've got higher prices to come for them over the next 12 months. If you don't already subscribe to the channel, please do so. We do daily market updates. We often give our macro outlook. And our macro outlook for this year certainly has been spot on. You know, we've battled the bears and ultimately been victorious. But we'll see how the future unfolds. Doesn't mean we're going to be right in the future. So really what we've identified, as well as this to define this range, is support that flipped and turned into resistance. You've also got an area down here where the price, the whole concept of a range is you're ranging between something. And then you get the expansion of volume into a breakout. Solana was one of the stocks that we looked at this year. Chainlink actually has become my biggest position based on the range it was in the breakout. The longer you range for, the bigger the break. So Chainlink's been an absolute monster for us. The stocks that we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, or the cryptos, I should say, are just here. Now, this stage analysis and range analysis does not just apply to the crypto market. It is universal, essentially. I'm a big believer that old school technical analysis is simply better. So this was another range that was being formed. You can see, again, you've got your support, flipped into resistance, and essentially you've formed a range here. Okay, much the same as what we've just seen in the crypto space. This is the S&P. We have a higher target for the S&P to round about, based on inverse head and shoulders, the 4,830 zone. So we've been very right on this one. Microsoft was another range. Kind of, there's a number of things here. The traditional technicals in regards to a head and shoulders that's given us our predicted target, which is where you perfectly sold off from before, forming this kind of a flag-like structure before continuation. So essentially, this was your range for Microsoft that you broke out of on volume. Your cryptos that we're about to mention are here, ladies and gentlemen, and they have this to come in our assessment. We can give you a few others that we were pretty spot on. The NASDAQ, of course, is one. You can see the NASDAQ, head and shoulders target, break, and then we've came back inside. So also Bitcoin is one of the stocks that we were pretty perfect, or one of the cryptos we were perfect on calling the range bottom for. Head and shoulders here, gave us that upside target here. We're now actually projecting future targets depending on what happens in this zone here. But essentially the cryptos that we have today, ladies and gentlemen, are in a range. Many of them, actually all of them, and this is why we've specifically chosen them, have now broken out of this range, and you're likely going to see further continuation. You may get a retest, which would be a great second chance for anybody that's still on the sidelines, or you may just have to look for some sort of continuation pattern to get in. But all 5 of these altcoins, not only do we think we've got the macroeconomic environment right, we think we've got the general market right. We've been calling for a breakout of the total market cap of the crypto space, which gives us a backdrop that if crypto is generally broke out, these altcoins are going to do well, and technically they all look rather savvy. Just to show you that on the total market cap, this is the total market cap. Again, broken out of a range, support, flips into resistance, bit of consolidation around it. This is where we started loading up on cryptos again, guys. I'm going to delete this, a little bit braggy. You break on volume, and then you continue. And actually, this isn't just the total market cap, it's total 2. Breakout, you can see this. And of course, total 3. And if you want to join the Patreon and get even more in-depth knowledge into all this, we are also looking at the others market cap dominance, which is going to set up a mammoth target for altcoins to really start rocking and rolling. So, all that being said, now that we've identified what it is we're looking at and how we're defining, what we're defining a breakout as. So, breakouts can be of trend lines, they can be of patterns, they can be of many things, and breakdowns is just the adverse. In this specific case, we're not looking at necessarily patterns, although there are patterns like double bottoms and inverse head and shoulders that will occur within a range. What we're really referring to is a key level of significance that's formed a resistance level of the top end of the range that these altcoins, a bottoming range that these altcoins have now broken out of with volume, and likely to see that further continuation. Let's get in, ladies and gentlemen, to altcoin number 1. So this is AVAX, Avalanche. Now, Avalanche is a pretty exciting project. Again, we like this kind of multi-chain ethos for cryptos. We think, it's the right one. And this one's a little bit harder to chart because you could maybe sense, and we're going to get rid of this line and we'll draw the range, that this would perhaps be the area that you've been pinned under. So to quickly go back and show you Solana so that you can kind of take an example of what we're talking about through with you, and we're going to use another chart like Coinbase. This is essentially what we're looking at. Your range forms, you break it on volume. The volume break is very, very important, and then you start a broader uptrend. So looking at that and looking at AVAX, you can see, albeit different charts or different bottoming patterns, you can see this one's more of a bleed out. You'll also have a bullish divergence on here if I was to bet. Yes. You've now broken out on volume. So the actual breakout, depending on where you want to draw this, did occur on elevated volume, the most volume that you've had for the entirety that you've been forming this, which is showing conviction behind the move. So this is now on an uptrend similar to Solana. Just to bring up the S&P, you can see on the S&P's breakout, it did a very similar thing to AVAX in regards to how it consolidated once it had broken. Can you see this? And now you're on to your next leg. So this is going to continue. You're going to get a big uptrend for AVAX. Let's introduce altcoin number 2. Now, we did call for this pre-breakout. If you are a member of the Patrons, you'll be familiar with all of these and what we kind of teach. So there is a link to that in the description. But altcoin number 2 is and probably might not be of any surprise to people, Cardano. Now, this is a beautiful example of a breakout, going back and showing you that Solana chart as a kind of blueprint. Very well called from us. We had a lot more going on here that kind of dictated what was to come. But again, resistance, you take it on volume. Look at what's happened with Cardano. Consolidating around it, consolidating in and around it before you get that breakthrough. You see the same thing with Cardano. Of course, this is Solana. You're now going to probably, in my opinion, find yourself coming back up towards this sort of range here. And we do have targets and projections for Cardano. So this is another breakout and another uptrend. You are on inflated volume here. Remember, volume differs from exchange to exchange. So do always bear that in mind. But you can see the volume. Although perhaps not amazing, it's certainly inflated compared really with the entire bear market. So very good signs for Cardano. Let's take a look at the next one, which is Polkadot. So Polkadot is a bit of a favorite of mine. Again, I like this kind of multi-chain consensus. You can see this is a little bit more of a tricky range, but this is perhaps further behind than the others, but in our opinion, broken out all the same. Again, we're going to get rid of this historic volatility. It is relevant, but we don't really want to explain that in this video. It's for another video. Bullish divergence into a breakout. And now you're looking at that continuation. Okay, so this is a broken out chart in my opinion. Similar to the likes of Solana. You can see what we're looking at here, guys. The next altcoin that we're going to be mentioning is another favorite of mine. There are many altcoins that look similar to this, guys, and after this video, you'll be able to go and find them for yourselves, which of course is Hedera. Very, very textbook. You know, you can see just how significant this price range is, certainly if you trim the wicks. Breakout on volume. Still seeing that inflated volume. Of course, this is going to differ from exchange to exchange. KuCoin probably isn't the best one to go by. But you can see where your volume is. Volume's also more on the upside than the downside. This is now a broken out chart in our opinion, and there's lots of room, lots of lackluster price action to fill. So we have covered AVAX, ADA, Cardano. AVAX, of course, is Avalanche, Polkadot Dot, HBAR. And now let's introduce one that you guys may not have heard me talk about much on the channel, but certainly the Patreons are all aware of it, which is Rose, which is essentially Oasis Network. Similar structure here, a little bit more complex because of where your resistance falls. I would chop the range up here and say that this is your range. There was a falling wedge, which we identified, very textbook, into a breakout and a push higher on inflated volume, and this is now likely going to see a further uptrend. So all 5 of these cryptocurrencies in our assessment are on the road to higher prices. Not financial advice, just my own opinion, and we're showing you how we've derived this opinion technically. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to love and leave you. If you have enjoyed this content, a like is always appreciated, so is a comment. And I hope to see you all in the next YouTube video. And let me know if you want more of these technical guides. There are many altcoins that we're looking at. These altcoins have larger market caps, as I'm always a little bit fearful looking at the smaller ones publicly. However, like I say, if you want to become a patron and find out exactly what we're looking at, get my portfolio, everything I hold, and get technical updates with me on a weekly basis, like, for example, we've got a market update tomorrow, then do check the link in the description. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.